I'm back in the project we created before. It's actually in the same state as before. I replaced my template to only display hello world and I export an empty object. Remember, this will get compiled to a JavaScript template plus the Vue.js code, where we don't have any here since the object is empty, but there could be some code. And then we're rendering this here with the render method, which basically is a Vue.js method allowing us to override the template we select here with the else selector and then place our compiled template there. So just an alternative to template, to mention this again, but a better alternative because here we render the compiled JavaScript code. Therefore, we don't face the limitations template has, like it having to be a string and other limitations given by the DOM, for example. So this is the best way to write your templates as you get the maximum flexibility. And I'll come back to one specific piece of flexibility in the next videos. Note that right now I'm not using a component. This is a normal object and I'm rendering it here. So I'm not doing anything here. I'm not having a component here. I now even removed this exported object and it still works because I still have the object here, the template I mean. But I want to reintroduce the exported object. Now in this object, I want to set up my data and this shall be a function. Let me show you what happens if it is not a function. By the way, this is not a component, but it's a separate object which we're exporting here, right? It's a separate object and we're rendering this object here. So it has the same limitations as a component has because we kind of use it as a component, even though we don't have a selector for that component, but we're using it to replace our normal template here in another Vue instance. So if I set up data like this as a normal object and I set status to critical, and then I print server status here, like that. If I now save this, you see we don't see it here, but if I open up the console, you see that the data option should be a function. So that does not really work. Instead, we shall set it up as a function as we learned it, and then in here, return an object enclosing our status. If I do this, you now see the server status critical here. So this is generally how we work with that. So far, that's not totally new. We learned about these single file components before. Now, let's also use them to create components now. So I'm already exporting an object here. And that is fine. This is kind of now my root Vue instance, which gets rendered here. It's like a component which I don't place with a selector, but instead simply like a replacement for the instance objects in here, because here I use the render function to replace everything. So I kind of need an alternative, a different place where I set up my root instance, data, methods, and so on. And this is in the app.vue file.